Hello and welcome, beautiful humans, to this episode of the podcast. Today I have with me Stephanie. We met actually through acro yoga, through the community, which is a beautiful community. She is an aerial yoga enthusiast. She is learning so much on the silks. It's been really cool to watch your journey.
Thank
She's
you.
an educator and just an all-around sweet human being. So welcome, Stephanie.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm very excited that when I put the call out there, who's interested in talking, that you said me. Or no, you actually said, I think so. I think me. And I loved the like raw vulnerability in that of I think I want to push into this edge. I'm not quite sure. So we're doing it, and I'm proud of you for stepping into that.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Definitely, over the past couple of days, I've been looking at this appointment in my calendar and I've been um contemplating, just what have I gotten myself into? Like, what am I going to do? What am I even going to say? But I'm definitely excited. It's more of an intimidating excited, but I'm very excited.
Yay, I'm so happy to have you. And I feel like with this podcast, it's very kind of free form. I was just talking with you about that. I'm just trusting, I'm trying to stay in the feminine flow with this and just trusting that whatever needs to be shared is going to come through, and whoever needs
Mhm.
to hear it is going to tune in and listen.
I think so.
Yeah. So I guess why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself, Stephanie?
So, I mean, uh, where to even like start with that question?
Yeah, that was a very,
It's like
very
a very like
open-ended
broad. It's like
question.
where 'cause my mind goes in so many different places. Well, my family came here in 1992, the year I was born. So my parents and my older sister are from Iraq. My older sister was born there, and they moved to Greece, and that's where I was born. And then, like 3, 4 months later, they came over to America. So technically, I was born in Greece, but I was raised here. And I grew up bilingual, which is a really I take that as a blessing. Like, I'm really happy that I grew up knowing in our language. It taught me a lot of my culture. We did keep a lot of the culture growing up. It was really important to my family, and yeah. So growing up like that was really cool. And the only like I think the biggest difference it made is that uh, sometimes people don't realize like how culture affects you and your personality. So I think sometimes like I loved my culture, and I it took me, I think, a while to appreciate it because, when you're young growing up, you just feel different. And when you feel different, it feels kind of weird. But as you grow older, you realize that different also means unique, and unique is, a good thing. But I think as a kid, you appreciate things in different ways, and it took me longer to learn that appreciation.
Yeah, when we're kids, we kind of want to try to fit in and like, be part of the group. So having a different culture, I would imagine, would be challenging if the vast majority of people that you're surrounded by don't have that culture and don't understand it. Because I grew up in America, and I feel like in like, kind of the traditional mutt from Europe, been over here for a few generations, and I feel like we lack culture. I feel like it's there's this pride and this belonging that comes with a strong culture. Could you share a little bit about that and what your experience has been growing up with a strong culture, but being kind of in a space that's not the vast majority?
I think the biggest difference, and it's just kind of funny, is food. Food is probably the thing that even to this day has taken me a long time to understand in general, because like growing up, my mom cooked, home cooked meals like every day. I think the only things that we had that weren't like maybe stereotypically American is sometimes we would have hot dogs and we would have pizza. Like I didn't have a pie probably until college, like an actual pie. So which is, it's kind of silly, but also, my boyfriend and I were talking the other day, and I was just like, no, like I'm cultured, like I like different kinds of foods. And, we were going through the foods that I liked, and I realized that I actually don't like I don't really I haven't had a lot of Indian cuisine. I haven't had a lot of like different type of Asian cuisines, like a lot of different like foods like I've never really looked into because I've always just eaten, my own food and then just kind of common foods that I've learned throughout the years that I've liked. So actually wasn't, kind of getting out of my comfort zone. And those kind of things it's interesting because, now a lot of people really think about it, but, I still have things from when I was little. And, when you're little, you do an all about me. And one of the most common questions in that are, what's your favorite food to eat? And a lot of kids usually write pizza, at least when I was little. That's what kids wrote. And mine was salad because, my culture, we have fattoush, which is a very popular salad now. And that was my favorite food. And I remember it was like, why do you like salad? Little kids don't like salad. It's kind of odd. And it sounds so simple, but it really was. It was the thing where, you look at all about me's in the classroom because they hang them all up and you notice because everyone colored like a picture and you're just like, oh, mine looks a little different, right? Even like just kids, like the way we looked, right? I think it's really cool now that a lot of the models on magazines are all different shapes, sizes, hair color, eye color, skin tone. And I think that's really beautiful because I think that's something that I didn't see as a kid. I still remember to this day, like Kim Kardashian was one of the very first people I saw that kind of looked like me, like color, like skin tone, hair, eyes, and people thought she was beautiful. And I remember just thinking, wow, like someone thinks someone like her is beautiful. And that just makes me feel good because I remember growing up and all the girls on the magazines had blonde hair, blue eyes. I mean, very light, like light colored skin. And I never really saw myself in anything else. And you look at all of your friends that have those same features and you just kind of feel different. It's that's something that's more common that I feel like people can relate to. And talking to other people, it's I think it's people don't realize how important it is to have, you know, people in media and entertainment that look different, people in politics that look different, that don't look like the stereotypical person that we've seen previously, how important that is because you see it everywhere. Like kids are constantly exposed to entertainment. So to see someone there that, they possibly could relate to really does mean the world to someone.
Yeah, certainly. And having not seen that when you were a kid, I'm curious, how do you feel like that affected you? I think you've kind of alluded to that, but I wonder if we could go a little deeper into how not seeing people that looked like you had an effect on little Stephanie.
I feel like it definitely stirred up some jealousy, which was something that I was very uncomfortable talking about for a long time. I would become jealous because, like in my family, my siblings, my older sister has like green eyes and very light skin, and my little sister has blue eyes and brown light hair. And I was the one, I have really dark black hair, I have really dark brown eyes. Um, and I'm a little more olive. And yeah, it definitely hit my confidence. I remember like growing up, I was not confident. I consider myself maybe like a little bit of a late bloomer. I didn't actually find myself attractive at all, probably until I was in my earlier mid 20s, and I'm 28 right now. Um, and it's just because it just wasn't common to see someone like that looked like me attractive, from my perspective.
Hmm.
Um, and that's, that's also something that like I'm just very harsh on myself. I always have been. Um, and but it's also hard to not be when you don't see someone that looks like you, that people consider beautiful. And it does a lot for a girl. And I think sometimes, you know, when we talk about those things, I think people need to bring themselves back to how you felt in high school. When you go through hormone changes and your hair gets frizzy,
Oh
or
yeah. And the
curly and all
acne
that
comes
stuff,
in and
and acne, and your weight fluctuates, and it's just all those things don't make you feel attractive. And on top of that, you didn't feel attractive to begin with. It's just kind of like a mesh of, it's a storm, honestly. And it takes a while, because it took me a while to get my skin under control. It took me a while to understand how to tame my hair, because I have very thick hair. It took me a while to even understand how to pluck my eyebrows. And a lot of those things, for my friends that were fair skinned and, had very, like, I mean, beautiful hair, but not as like thick and coarse as mine. Those things didn't come to them, right? They didn't have those issues. So it was also hard to even relate to anyone when they didn't have that. I still remember, I was actually watching, gosh, what is the show called? This Is Us.
mm-hmm.
And I really do. It's definitely a guilty pleasure. And there's one of the characters on this show, she is dating a man, and she's black and he's white, and they're going on a trip together, and she's like, "Oh, darn it, I forgot my silk pillowcase." And he's just like, "Oh my gosh, you have to be so fancy with a silk pillowcase." She kind of got a little frustrated, because it's not because she's fancy, it's because regular pillowcases dry out her hair, which is the same exact thing for me. Like, I use silk pillowcases. I wrap my hair at night because it'll dry out. But those are things people don't know, and you don't expect anyone to do research. But in a way, when you're surrounded by people that don't know those things, and they're small things, but they add up at the end of the day, and you just kind of feel left out and isolated almost, right? Like, people wouldn't understand because they don't have those problems. It takes me about like an hour to do my hair, whereas some people, they just blow it out and it's gorgeous. And and all of those things, I mean, yes, of course I wish I would have that, but like I said, it took me a while to appreciate like how, like, I love my hair now. I've always It took me a while to appreciate that, because it's thick and it's full, and I think it looks beautiful when I finally figure out how to do it.
You
And
have beautiful hair.
thank you. But it's one of those things where you take time to appreciate it. And I do wish I learned how to appreciate it earlier in life. But when you're in high school and you're crying in the bathroom trying to get a brush through your hair, and your mom is like shoving the brush under the sink to get water in and just dragging it through your hair as you're just sobbing because you just want to get ready for school, you don't appreciate it as much in that moment, right?
Yeah.
And hair is a really interesting topic, right? When you really talk about it, because I've talked to a lot of people about it, because I've had to get like advice from all different friends of all different like ethnic backgrounds, just to figure out what to do with my own hair. But it it's crazy because you go, well, I just go in the shower, wash my hair and stuff like that. It's so different and unique for every person. You don't realize that until you ask someone from another
Hmm.
culture, like, what do you like currently right now? I'm drinking curry tea, from the actual curry leaf. So I buy this at the Indian store. So this is this is like one of my things that I actually do use for my hair. So curry tea, like actual curry leaves, you can buy them at a lot of like Indian grocery stores. And you boil them and you put a little bit of lime and a little bit of sugar, and it helps your hair. It helps strengthen your hair. It's like an Indian like beauty secret, and it also helps stop gray hairs as well. So
That sounds like something I should try because my like I can totally relate to your stories about your hair. Oh my gosh, in high school, middle school, like I would throw it up and it would be like all like frizzy coming out the sides. And oh man, it took me a long time as well to figure out how to embrace my hair and how to even style it. Like I would just try to straighten it. If I ever did it, it was like as straight as possible. Like there can't be any kinks in it. It has to be perfectly straight. And I based like part of my appearance on that, you know, and like my worth in that.
hmm
So
yeah.
yeah, I think that that can go across cultures for sure.
Yeah, and it's crazy because it's always the girls with the super straight hair that want curly hair, and it's always the girls with the curly hair that want straight hair, right?
Right.
And I still remember like when the first straightener came out, my older sister got it, and I was so jealous. I was like, I want to use it. She wouldn't let me use it. And I was like, oh, it was the one, it was like the Conair one with like the little, I don't know if you remember, it has like the little like cotton ball in it and you put water in it and it
Uh-huh.
like steams your hair and it
Yep.
barely worked,
Uh-huh.
especially on our hair because her hair is just as thick as mine. And yeah, it's such a like simple topic because for some people it's not as, big of an impact, but it's just kind of like skin, right? Like some people have always they're just blessed with beautiful skin. Um and we all have those things. We're all blessed with certain things and then we have things that we're uncomfortable about, and that's what makes us all, really beautiful and unique, and that's also where we can like help support each other and help each other. Um but it's sometimes people think about and sometimes people don't. But yeah, hair is definitely it was a big thing for me and it took me a while, and now like I said, I love my hair. And I wouldn't trade it for the world. I've been asked by my hairstylist if I wanted to put highlights in it, and I was like, no, I'm going to keep my hair black for as long as I possibly can keep my hair black for, because it took me so long to appreciate even my hair color. And now I just want to hold on to it for as long as I can.
I'm curious if as you started to accept your hair and embrace your hair, what changes were happening internally at that time?
I think honestly, I think it was watching people, because growing up, a lot of people were going blonde, right? Like my mom went blonde, her friends went blonde. And then it went through this phase where it's like there were girls with like dark hair that were considered like pretty. And then I remember, people just being like, "Oh no," like I remember there was this older woman that like came up to me once and she said, "You have the most beautiful hair I have ever seen." And I looked at her. I think I was in middle school and I thought she was crazy. And she was just like, "My hair used to be that dark." She goes, "And I miss it so much." And I think I was very there was a lot of tunnel vision for me going on, where I was just like looking down like one, kind of like hallway. And when she said that, I just remember just being like, really? And she was just like, yeah, she's like, never change it. It's like, it's so pretty. And then, after a while, I think all those experiences just kind of opened my eyes up. And I think also once I learned how to work with my hair too, I don't think it was just like all the advertisements and compliments. I think once I learned how to tame it and appreciate it, and also appreciate that I will always have frizz of some sort, and
Embrace the
accepting
frizz.
that and embracing it and just saying, you know what, like this is great and I love it. And yeah, I wouldn't change it for the world. And it's also things like you just I think it just took me a while to be comfortable in my own skin. And I think once I started settling and feeling comfortable in my own skin and looking in the mirror and not looking in the mirror to change something, but looking in the mirror and saying, like, I enjoy who I am and where I am and what I'm doing and what I look like. I think once I got around to that, and I think that came through time because I learned how to, take like I had really bad acne growing up. Once I learned how to, clean my face properly, how I went to the dermatologist, like once I learned how to do my eyebrows, how to put on makeup if I wanted it, how to do my hair, once I learned how to do that, I think that's when my confidence started coming up. And, not that anyone ever needs to change themselves, but when you put effort into the way you look, it really changes the way you feel about yourself. And I think that's what really helped me because I think I was just so angry with the way I looked before and I didn't really put effort in. I was just more upset and I did nothing about it. I think once I started actually doing that, it completely changed the way I felt about myself and my appearance.
That's such a great analogy just for life in general.
It,
Like we want things to be one way or another, and sometimes we don't want to do anything. We just want like the magic fairy godmother to come in and touch us with her wand and it's perfect, exactly how we want. But it takes work, it takes time, it takes effort, and outwardly and inwardly to figure out how to do those things. And I totally agree that when you put that time and effort into something like your appearance, that's self-care. That's like, I'm gonna take a nice shower, I'm gonna moisturize my hair, I'm gonna, put the good face cream on. That's taking care of yourself. That's showing yourself that you value yourself. It's so much deeper than just the skin.
yeah, and I couldn't agree with that any like I agree with that so much because I live an extremely busy lifestyle. I feel like I've always just kept myself very busy. And if there's one thing that I like put time for, I put time for my presence, like my appearance, like the way I look. And it's not like, no, I don't go to like work every day with a full face of makeup, but I do go to work with, clean clothes. My hair is usually done or it's pulled back in a nice like way. And I look presentable to what I feel like is presentable. And I wash my face every night. And I know, for some people that's not that much, but for me, that is my routine. I have like a whole routine. I wash my face, I put my topicals on, I put my moisturizer, like all of those things. And it feels good because I know that I'm taking care of myself. And when I do all of that, it just it makes me feel like I'm present, more present in the moment because I don't have enough time to be present sometimes it feels like I'm stretched along a lot of different things, because I'm a very ambitious person, but, I almost force myself to do this, to do that, just so I, come back to myself and what I find valuable.
In general, routines, whatever your routine is, it's so grounding. It's so incredibly grounding. I was actually just Jay Shetty right now has this 5-day workshop challenge thing going on, which is all about creating new habits, releasing old habits. And today was all about creating a morning and evening routine. And, one thing that he said is wake up in the morning and speak what you're grateful for. And even just that one thing is so grounding.
Yeah.
Like I wake up and I make my bed. That's like the first thing I do. And that it's just my routine. Like I just know it's going to happen. There's something that's very grounding and centering about having a routine.
I almost embed things into my routine so I take more time. Like I grind my coffee beans every morning, and I foam my own milk. I make coffee every morning. I have like this whole routine on what to do. I put like different powders into my milk and all those things. And it's just like really small things. Like our coffee table, this is so interesting. Our coffee table, I got a glass one. And the reason why I got a glass one is because you clean glass more. But like for me, like that's really calming to know that, some people find it annoying, but I see when it's dirty. So I take the time to clean it because I felt like if I were to get a darker one, I wouldn't clean it as much. And it's that I think I just personally, as I'm continuing to talk about this, I find a lot of pride in seeing things in like in my eyes, a presentable way. And those kind of things just have always just made me happy. Even like if you look at all of like my work stuff and my folders, they're all kind of like coordinated.
Are you type
And
A?
I don't know. I have no idea. I mean, I must be, but it's just it's something where it's like it forces me to take a second and to, you know, just sit and like calm down. It's really relaxing, like watching like grinding my beans and doing all that in the morning, washing my face, going through my whole routine. And I'm not because I before I used to just rush out of bed, throw clothes on, and run out the door.
Which is
So
not the best way to start your day because you're already like
feel so
frantic
rushed.
energy. Yeah. I think that's such a beautiful morning routine that you have. And it sounds like you've really been able to create a ritual for yourself that cultivates presence. And that's something that we all struggle with in the modern world because we're constantly inundated with all this external stimuli that's trying to pull our attention away. So for you to be able to sit and just watch the beans being ground and enjoy that moment, that's so beautiful.
Thank you. And it's also, one of the main reasons why I started aerial. I've always done like extracurricular activities, but with aerial, working out in general, it's really hard for your mind to be anywhere else, and with aerial, your safety is in concern if your mind is somewhere else. Like you have to be fully present. Um,
Do you want to
and
explain what aerial is real quick,
oh
just
yeah,
for listeners that might not know?
of course. So I do aerial silks. So I do a aerial arts. So in my studio, it's the way I describe it to people. I say you probably have seen it in Cirque du Soleil. That's probably the most commonplace people have seen it. Aerial silks kind of look like really long curtains. And people climb them, they'll do tricks on them. I am still kind of pretty beginner, if I am compared to anyone that's advanced at all. And there's also something called a lyra, which is a giant circle that people will perform on. There's a trapeze. That's something that people are that a lot of people know what that looks like. I am currently working on an apparatus that is a rope. It's just a rope with a canvas on it. It reaches up to, I believe, 18 to 20 feet tall in our studio. And then I'm currently working on an apparatus called straps, which is just like two long straps that you loop your hands through, and you just kind of do tricks on it. And that's the best way I can kind of describe it. It's a performance art, so I've performed, I believe, about 5 times now, and yeah, I really love it. I was always like involved in something growing up. I did ballet, I did gymnastics, and once I kind of settled after getting my job, I wanted to do something else, and I saw a friend that did it, and that's how I got into it. And I think it's my third year already doing it right now, so it's been really fun.
And you said that part of why you started doing it was or that you've maybe continued doing it is that it keeps you in the present moment?
Yeah. So I, can have super hectic, crazy busy days. And some days, I go to aerial probably about 2 to 3 times a week. And it's really nice to just go there right after work, do a lesson, and leave everything at the door. And it's nice. I actually remember when I was going through a very hard time about a year or two ago. I think I scheduled a private at least twice a week just so I just had time to almost take a break for my own mind. It felt like I just needed a moment to where I wasn't just constantly thinking and worried and nervous and scared. And it really helped my mental health. It just helped me work on being present because it was really hard for me. I think I've gotten a lot better at it, but it's a skill like over time that I've been working on, and aerial has really helped me because if you're not um, present at all, you really could put your own safety in danger. You have to be aware of where you're at the on the rope, on the silks, on any apparatus, or you could fall out of it. Oh my God, there are mats, there are instructors, there are people watching you, making sure you're safe. But at the end of the day, um, in any situation you're in, your safety is in your hands. So just as if you're walking on a sidewalk with your phone and not present of what's in front of you. So, but yeah, and also, I did acro yoga, which we met through, and that's also another thing. You need to be aware, you need to be present, and if you're not, you can put your safety and someone else's safety in general in at risk. So those sports are really great because you're just fully tuned in, and you have to be present for them, and that's always been very helpful for me. I think that's why I was always drawn to extracurricular activities.
Hmm. One thing that I really think is beneficial about acro, which acro is partner yoga, so think like Dirty Dancing, the high bird at the
That's
end.
the way I describe it every time to people.
I mean, who doesn't know Dirty Dancing? Come on.
Well, and then always like whenever people come to like the first class, that's like the move that people love showing off because they're
Hmm.
like, "Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
it's like
it's a
dirty dancing."
yeah, it's like a party trick.
Yeah, it is.
But one thing that I find really enriching about acro yoga is you have to be present, like you said, and you have to it works on trust and it works on communication. You have to learn how to communicate really quickly and really efficiently, verbally or non-verbally, and you have to trust. You have to trust yourself to speak your needs to your partner, and you have to trust your partner to to do the same, essentially.
Yeah, and it's really funny because so I met my boyfriend through acro, and it's I was doing aerial for about a year. Really liked it. I had a really good time, and he was just like, I met him through there, and we continued to do acro together. And I remember we were working on a routine, and the instructor said, "He's not an apparatus, Stephanie." And I just thought that was so funny, and it made me think too, obviously, because what I would do is I would just move around, do all the tricks, and almost like not even think about like where my hand would be like on his face. I would just like roughly move around and just like maneuver my body. And I had to actually like work on being conscious about not being so like, and I always joke around, and I always say I'm a very, um, I wouldn't say I'm a bossy flyer, but I'm definitely a very, dominant flyer. There are certain moves in acro where it can be very flyer led or base led, and I usually am more drawn to the flyer led moves, um, because that's that's how I work in aerial. I work with the apparatus. So acro yoga uh, definitely helped me focus on a skill that I lacked, and I thought it was really helpful. I thought it helped me a lot with my communication skills, taking criticism better, and working on communication skills with my current partner. I thought it was really cool. I highly recommend any couple out there or friends to do acro yoga together because it helps you work so much on your communication skills and understanding, and even like problem solving. I've based myself, and just seeing things from a different perspective. It's really cool. It's a great hobby to have.
Are you guys still doing acro together?
We are not currently. We have this darling little puppy that freaks out every single time we even work out in our family room.
Oh
We
no.
were actually doing yoga the other day, and we both went into, a down dog, and she just laid down beneath us, like under us. And anytime we would lay on the ground, she would just like come up to us and lick us. So
Aw.
it's a little bit of a safety hazard. We did do a couple workshops over the summer, and actually, I assisted in a couple classes, which is really cool. And but yeah, kind of once the classes started to stop, we stopped a little bit, but we're moving forward. Not that acro isn't with us; it's just right now things look a little bit different. Um, and we'll eventually get back to it, but our house is not the space for acro right now. Maybe our backyard when it's nice and pretty outside, but
There you
it's not safe to do acro in our house currently.
go. How has acro translated outside of, how is like what you've learned, how have those skills translated outside of the acro space?
I think I've worked a lot with, gosh, that's a wonderful question. Because there are so many different things that I personally learned from acro. And I also think not just from the sport itself, but from the community that acro has. Um, our community in Detroit is just beautiful. We have a lot of really beautiful people in our community, and I think just from them, I learned a lot about communications skills. I learned a lot about empathy, um, just how really beautiful and genuine people can be. Um, and I think that's something that my boyfriend and I miss a lot is just the community and how happy we would feel just walking in to an acro class because it was just full of a lot of really cool people. I think the actual sport itself, I learned to be very comfortable, more comfortable just with my interpersonal space. I'm way more aware of my body and the way, like my body awareness, which is kind of funny because I feel like everyone assumes that they have body awareness, at least I did. And I didn't realize how little I had until I started acro. Um, when people go, put your left foot up, and you put your right foot, or sometimes your hand. So, and I remember like when I first went into a hybrid, which is the skill that people know from Dirty Dancing, where he lifts her up into the air, I put my arms forward, where that will actually make you topple forward, and you're actually supposed to put them back. So I learned a lot about counterbalance, body awareness, um, trusting other people, and accepting that. maybe you can't do something with some person, but that doesn't mean that they won't teach you a new skill. Which I think that's probably one of my favorite things because it took me a long time to be comfortable to work with other people that weren't just the regular people I worked with because it was scary. You were working with someone new and you had to trust that person. And it's kind of scary just trusting someone you don't really know. And it seemed to come very easy to a lot of people, but for me, it was very intimidating. I actually remember being in a class at the very beginning of acro and working with people I didn't know. And most of the people there I didn't know very well because my regular group wasn't there. And I remember going up to one of the instructors and just saying, I don't want to be here and I think I'm going to go. And he said, "Are you okay?" And I was just like, "I don't know." And I left and I just sat in my car and I cried and I just sobbed. And he called me afterwards and he was like, "Hey, like what's wrong?" And I was like, I just don't think I'm comfortable enough trusting those people. And he's like, "That's fine." And I was like, "But it seems to come so easy to everyone else." And, he's like, "But that's okay. It doesn't have to come easy to you." And that's a very common thing for me. I put a lot of pressure on myself to fit in as much as I kind of can because I don't want to make anyone else uncomfortable. But just being able to have that openness, especially with the instructor, and he was so sweet. I remember him saying, like, "I'm so proud of you just for coming because you knew that you wouldn't know anyone here." And the next class, I just continued to work on that skill and tried to work with a new person if I could. And yeah, I think that I don't know what you would even call that skill, and other than just trying to trust, but it's just such a different level, I feel like, of trusting.
Such a beautiful story.
Thank you.
Just being able to be held by by the instructor and speak your truth, because it is okay. Like we all have different experiences and we all have different comfort levels with varying situations. And I mean, acro's like up close and personal. People's hands are in all sorts of places on your body. Like it's not yeah, it's very intimate in some ways. So I can imagine that that can be a challenging aspect. Is that something that was present in your life in general, and acro kind of brought it to the forefront?
Yeah, I've always just kind of been uncomfortable with just I didn't like people that I didn't know hugging me or kind of getting close to me. Um, which is kind of funny because I feel like with the people that I'm friends with and with my family, I'm a very affectionate person. Um, but with people I don't know, I'm not. And I also think that kind of embeds um, within just, I want to be respectful. So with people that you just like first meet, you don't know if that person wants a hug or you don't know. And I think in turn, that makes me uncomfortable too because my mind just kind of starts racing. Uh, but now with COVID happening and stuff, everything's just kind of a blanket statement, and you just know that you wave hi to people. So it's actually been really calming for me to know I know exactly how I greet everyone now. Um,
Hmm.
but with I've always just kind of been uncomfortable with that. In gymnastics, I remember people used to spot me. In aerial, sometimes people would spot me, and it took me a while just to kind of be comfortable with that. Once I actually knew the instructors, it was fine. Um, but with acro, it was a whole new level. And now looking back at it, it makes sense why I feel like I was uncomfortable with it. I feel like a lot of people would be uncomfortable with it. It's just the group of people that were in acro most of them have been doing it for a while. So they were already in their comfort zone. And for me, I think I was like the newest person there, especially that day. So um, I was definitely pushing myself to do something that was out of my comfort zone, which I tried to do. I think I just pushed myself a little too hard that day. And I think I, took it a step back and understood, that it's going to take a little bit more. I think tried to take a leap that day and I should have just taken baby steps.
And in doing that, you're able to find what your edge is. Sometimes we have to go a little bit past it to realize where it is.
It was nice too because the instructor um, at that point would almost look out for me when he would notice that there wasn't someone I knew that would work with me on a certain skill. He would come up to me and say like, "Do you want me to work on this with you?" And it was nice knowing that if there was ever a moment I just kind of needed to regress, I had him to go to, and I didn't have to constantly take myself out of my comfort zone.
And it was already understood, so you didn't even have to have a conversation again. It was he knew where you're at and he could see that.
Yeah, it was really
Beautiful.
nice.
When humans actually care and look out for each other, right? And it
And
took
that
vulnerability for you to be able to share that with him, for you to leave class and for you to share with him.
Yeah, and that's like one thing that is really, really apparent in like just the aerial community, like aerial kind of circus community, which I consider acro and both like aerial arts to just be under that. It's definitely a group of people where we're all adults, like we're all on different pages in life. I've met doctors and I've met, students going through college, and I've met single mothers and I've met single dads and all different kinds of people. And it's really cool that all these people from all different backgrounds are coming to this one place. And it's definitely a safe zone for a lot of people, and you can see it. And by having that, you just feel so accepted that you're comfortable enough to say that. I remember when COVID actually, like the shutdown was happening, and our very last like acro, we were doing like an advanced acro class, and we all sat down like in a circle, and we all kind of just talked about it and talked about what we were scared about and what we were nervous about. And we were like, if you don't have like, remember people said, they're like, if you don't have my number, like, here's my number, call me any time of the day. And it's just, it's really cool. It's really cool. And I've seen that in both of the communities, and it's one of the reasons why I keep coming back. It's not just a really good workout. Almost all of my friends are from those communities.
Mm-hmm. It is a very supportive community from what I have found. Certainly. I know we're getting close-ish to time,
My
and
goodness, that's crazy.
you had mentioned before, I know, right? Time flies when you're having fun. I feel like we could chat all night.
Yeah.
But you had mentioned before we went live or before we started recording, you mentioned that mental health was something that was really present with you, that you wanted to kind of talk a little bit on that topic. So do you want to do that?
Yeah, no, I would love to. So, mental health is something that I am extremely passionate about, just because I think it's something that it's beautiful that it's been coming up to like kind of the forefront where people have been recognizing it, understanding it, becoming more aware of it. Even my own job, when everything was happening, we had people reaching out to us. We had like suggestions of like things that we can do to like help. Even like my bosses, like they're always like, how are you? How are things going? Like it was really beautiful to see that, they were concerned, and I thought that was really cool. So you definitely can tell that the awareness of mental health is out there. Um, and I've been seeing it. But I also just want to talk about how it's one of the other things that just took me a while to understand, because it's just very easy to say, well, I'm just depressed. Well, I'm just anxious. It's a very individualized thing, because what makes me anxious can make another person not anxious at all, and vice versa. Um, and I think during quarantine, I mentioned I'm an extremely busy person, and I do that on purpose. And reason why I do that is in high school, I was very depressed, and a counselor told me, he's like, well, what do you do? And I was like, well, I go home and I just sit at home. And he was like, can you get a job? And I was like, yeah, I could. I got a job and I kept myself busy, and I noticed that my mood started to lighten because I felt like I was doing something with my time. Um, Now I kind of need to pull myself back a little bit. And I think that's what quarantine did to me. Everything was canceled, and I couldn't leave my house unless, I had to get groceries. So I kind of had to sit with myself for the entire summer, to be safe and, aware of everything going on. And I think that was very hard for me. I ended up seeing a therapist once a week. I've always seen therapists on and off, but it also made me sit down and actually like examine what I wanted to do with my life. And I think it did that for a lot of people. But then, it took me that time to realize that I need to work on being more present with where I am. This woman that I really, really respect, I was talking to her the other day. I'm applying to a new program. Um, I'm applying for a doctorate. And she said, that's amazing, Stephanie. I think that's wonderful. And I think you should do it. She's like, but also remember to take the time to enjoy where you are. She's like, you always wanted this job and you're in it, and that's amazing. And she's like, you just got a new house, you have this new dog, like that's wonderful, and I appreciate that. And I think quarantine did that. And in that time, I called friends, I FaceTimed people, like I actually took time for myself and for other people, and I appreciated those moments. And now, my boyfriend and I, we cook every single night. We almost never go out, even though restaurants open back up. We almost never got carry out. I take time for my friends. I take time for myself. Um, and I think that's very important. And the one thing also that I realized going back to work is how different quarantine was for everyone. And it still is. Like we're still going through it, and how different this is. Some people have lost beloved ones, and some people haven't seen their grandparents or their parents since March, and it's kind of scary. And but it also it this time has made us all kind of take this, you know, um, poster that we kind of put up, like of a happy face in front of our faces, and kind of throw it down and be like, this is where I am. Right. And I think Zoom is the best example of that, because we all got a inside peek in everyone's houses during quarantine when we were all on Zoom. Right. We were all like,
Mhm.
oh, look at that painting up there, your dog jumping up in front of the screen, like that, which I definitely respect the profession, being professional, but there's nothing like that makes me happier than seeing a person that I respect that's extremely professional and watching their dog rolling around in the back of their like in the back of their video. Like to me, that makes me happy because I'm like, oh, that's their dog. And, I've always seen them in an office or in, like in a very professional setting. And now I can say, oh, how's your dog? How is that, still rolling around and just those kind of things. And those little things really make us connect to each other more. And I feel like I've become even more aware of it. I've always tried to be aware of it, but I think I've become even more aware of it because of how much quarantine has made me think and how much I've realized what other people have been going through, right? Camping. I went camping this summer with you and with a bunch of friends, and it was
Mhm.
amazing. I've never gone camping in my life. Well, I went when I was little, but we went camping because we couldn't really do anything else. And, one of our mutual friends invited us, and I remember, like, I don't want to go. And I went, and now we have a bunch of camping gear in the basement, and we're waiting until summer so we can go camping again.
Yay. And I just want to say that for being like your first time camping, you dove in. That was like a backpack trip, backpack in,
We
very
hiked
rustic.
in. It was a mile hike and it poured like on our walk there. And here I am in my like Nike zip up like rain jacket that wasn't the best rain jacket. I was soaking wet. And I remember my boyfriend looking at me saying, "Whose idea was this?" Like, I have no idea. But yeah, it's it and oh my gosh, I loved it. I loved it. And I remember I called my mom, and my mom and I, we can be a bit similar. And she goes, "You went camping?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she was like, "Where did you go to the bathroom?" That's everyone's favorite question, by the way. I don't know why. And she's like, "You peed in the woods?" And I was like, "Yeah, mom." And she was just like, "Oh." I was like, "But mom, we slept like right next to a lake. Like it was beautiful. We stayed up and we like laid down and watched the stars and talked and we had so much fun. And there are people on that trip that I've known for like a year and I learned so much about them and people that I met for the first time. And oh, it was so much fun and we had such a good time. And quarantine has forced people to turn off the TV, to make themselves not busy anymore, and to talk to each other. I still remember at the beginning of it, my boyfriend and I went out for a walk, and you saw everyone out on the sidewalk. Everyone was walking because they had nothing else to do, right? And I just thought it was really cool. I remember there was a guy like on his front porch and he was just drinking a cup of coffee and we had I think like a half hour conversation with him. And God, I think that is just so beautiful. And to me, it's one of my favorite. It just makes me feel so alive to talk to someone and not feel like they're just putting up a front, to actually be like, "Hey, like how are you doing? Like how is it going?" Because that means something to me, you know? And I hope it means something to them too, because I think it's a valuable thing to connect as people and to not act like we're not. Like I feel like when you put up a front, you're almost pretending that you're not human. And I think um, accepting and being vulnerable, which is something that I struggle with myself, but being vulnerable, I think, is stronger than putting up a front. I think actually like putting yourself out there is it's very inspiring. And when I actually get to know other people, I am always inspired.
I agree with everything that you just said. Oh my gosh, so much good has come out of like I know COVID is not it's not an ideal situation, but I feel like we
No.
can look at some of the positives. There are some positives that have come out of it. And one of the things when you were talking about everybody walking around, same thing where I live, I noticed everybody was outside, and it wasn't just like single people. Like I live in a suburban neighborhood, and it was families together, like mom, dad, kids, couple with their dog, friends. And I thought that that was really beautiful because it wasn't like that before. There was always, like you said, you could go out to eat or go here or there,
Yeah.
but we were just slowing down,
And it was,
slowing down. Go ahead.
oh, sorry. I remember there was one time we were walking and we walked past like a playground and the playground's opened back up. And this little girl ran up to us. She was with a caregiver of a sort and a guardian. And she goes, "Tomorrow's my birthday." And we looked at her and we were like, "Oh my goodness." We're like, "Really?" And she was like, "Yeah." Are just like, "Happy birthday. That's so exciting." She's like, "Yeah, I get to go out here and tomorrow I get to do this and I get to do this." And you know, I obviously like I did not know her or anything, but like the first thing that came to my mind, I was like, well, maybe she can't have a birthday party, but how cool is it that she gets to be like announce it to the world that it's her birthday? Because usually you go, wait till your birthday party, like you don't have to tell everyone, but like, you know, we were so happy that she shared that with us. We're just like, that's amazing. Like, congratulations. And the funny thing is the dog that we were walking, it was his birthday too. So we're just like, hey, you guys share a birthday. And she was just like on cloud nine after that. So it was just it there are so many of those little special moments. And like you said before, obviously like this is COVID is not ideal. Like there's a lot of like things about it that the safety and all of those things, but it also being safe and being aware. My favorite thing is when people say my mask protects you and it protects me. So we're doing these kind of things to be considerate and safe and of everyone. And I also think that honestly, like putting a mask on really puts another layer of like, I'm being considerate of you. I haven't seen my grandmother a lot, which, of course makes me really sad because I'm very close to her. But it's a level of consideration. And I think it's also recharged people's like brains to, I don't know if recharge is the right word, but like make them think again of just like considering others and, and sharing things. And I mean, goodness, the conversations I've had with friends, I've had hard ones and I've had happy ones and I've had so many different ones over quarantine, but I'm thankful for every conversation I have had and every moment I've gotten to spend with people. And the funny thing is, at the beginning of quarantine, I was living with my boyfriend in his old house. I decided to quarantine with him, and he lived in a duplex, and we all just quarantined together. So he had his roommate and a roommate upstairs, and we just took on that time to celebrate every holiday that we possibly could think of during quarantine. So we like celebrated Christmas and Thanksgiving. I mean, his roommate made a turkey. We bought ham and we all made a dish, and we were able to celebrate Easter together because it went during quarantine, but we just threw every holiday we could think of in there, and we played board games and we tried our best to make the most out of it. And those kind of stories those opportunities you don't get very often. So we just took advantage of it and it was really cool.
Yeah, that sounds like you guys made the most of it and
Right.
connected and deepened your bond through that.
Hmm. So
Well,
yeah.
I thank you so much for joining me today. Is there anything else that's like on your heart to share today?
um I feel like I've said that's that's also a very deep question. There's always something I feel like that I just I feel like if there's like anything that you could like take away like from my rambles and just me just going off of everything that's on the top of my head, I really think that you know, with everything going on, we're all kind of like on a different path. And if there's one thing that I teach um when I teach being kind and things is to look at a person when you talk to them and see them as a person. And not that you're ever, no one's ever, I wouldn't think that anyone's ever intentionally rude, when they don't do that. But what I mean when I say that is if you know the person's name, say their name, right? When I say hello to people, I really try to say, like, hey, Nicole, like, how are you? Um, because just that extra effort goes so far. When I ask someone for a favor, I always say, how are you? Like, first and foremost, like, how are you? Because I'm not going to ask someone for a favor if they just had a terrible day. Um, and those things sometimes can mean so much. I've had so many people come back to me and say, remember that one day when you asked me how I was doing? And I just kind of talked to you about it. And I was like, yeah. And they're like, that meant a lot to me. And, sometimes you don't even realize it, but you really could help someone just by calling them by their name or just asking them how they're doing. And it doesn't take that much effort. And I think it's a really beautiful thing. And I really think it connects people.
So that pretty much answers this question, but I'm going to ask it anyways. So at the end of each podcast, I like to ask a couple questions to each guest. And the first one is, if you could tell every human on the planet one thing, what would it be?
Tell them. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I feel like I already did. Yeah, it is to just, people say they go, treat people the way you want to be treated, right? And sometimes I think that can be a little flawed because everyone wants to be treated kind of a little differently, right? People have different things that they consider respectful or that to me, I think one thing that's always kind of gone a long way is to just talk to people and ask them how they're doing. Your friends, your family, like your aunt that you haven't seen in forever. Because not will it only mean so much to them, it'll help you too. You learn so much more from other people than you'll ever learn from just, sitting down and watching the news or I don't know, reading a book. I've learned more from my grandmother. Like I've learned stuff from her that I could never learn from a book. And I think that's really valuable. We do that with children. They learn from each other, but that still continues as you get older. You learn from each other, and being able to sit down and go to your boss and before you even start your evaluation, your meeting or whatnot, ask them how they are. Maybe no one has asked them that because they're the boss and they're supposed to do that for you, but that doesn't mean that they don't get it back. And I think that's really important to kind of like keep in the back of your mind.
Kindness goes a long way.
It really does.
So, last question. What is your current life motto or mantra?
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So I actually have a mantra necklace on right now. I have
I
two
love it.
of
I love
them.
it. Of course you do.
I have two of them. My boyfriend got them for me because I was getting overwhelmed. Some days, like I would just like get like really stressed out, and he got me these mantra necklaces for Christmas. And the one that I had, oh my goodness, if I can read it, it says, "I am supported and protected." Um, and I also have another one that says like, "I am powerful and strong." I've been wearing the "I am supported and protected" one a lot. More than the other one. And I think it's because with everything happening, it kind of feels like everything is just all over the place. And sometimes, I enjoy stability, and stability has definitely not been there through all of this. And I think I've been working a lot on trusting that things will always like come through and be all right, and to trust what I feel is right. And so I think my current mantra is to just trust myself and know that I am supported, um, by my family, by my friends, by my colleagues. And I'm used to just having a black and white, like, oh yeah, this is A and this is B, and definitely C will come right after. But right now, that's not there. And I'm just kind of going, like, I'm giving it my all, and I'm trusting that I will figure it out. And that's been my mantra also as well, if that makes sense, is like I'll figure it out, but I think it's graduated to I'm going to trust myself and I'm supported.
Thank you so much for joining me today, Stephanie, and sharing part of your journey with us here. And thank you to the listeners for tuning in. Have a
Yes, thank
beautiful day. Until
you.
next time.
Bye. Thank you so much.